Hey everyone! Today we're diving into something that's both an art and a science, data visualization. We're going to look at how to take a bunch of raw numbers and turn them into clear, powerful stories with one of the best tools out there, a great graph.
But first, let me ask you something. Can a graph actually lie? I mean, it's just data, right? How can a visual of pure numbers mislead you? Well, the answer is a huge, resounding yes, and it happens more often than you think.
Just take a look at this. On the left, the difference between those bars looks like a massive canyon, right? A huge dramatic gap. But on the right, you're looking at the exact same data, and the difference is, well, it's just a tiny step. So what changed? Only one thing: the starting point of that vertical axis. It's a classic trick called truncating the axis, and it's one of the easiest ways a graph can distort the truth, whether on purpose or just by accident.
So, to make sure our graphs are telling the true story, here's our game plan. We've just seen the problem, how misleading a graph can be. First, we're going to build a solid foundation and understand the basic anatomy of a chart. Then, we'll dive into 6 of the most common design traps and, more importantly, how to fix them. After that, we'll look at how to go beyond the default settings to make your charts really shine. And finally, we'll talk about our responsibility to make these visuals accessible to everyone.
Okay, first things first. Before we can build these amazing, truthful charts, we have to be absolutely solid on the fundamentals. So let's quickly break down the essential parts.
So what even is a graph, really? Well, in the nerdy mathematical sense, it's just a set of dots, or vertices, connected by lines, or edges. You can think of cities on a map as the vertices, and the roads connecting them as the edges. When we're talking data, our data points are the vertices, and the chart's lines or bars, those are the edges showing us the relationship.
And the stage where this whole data story plays out? That's the Cartesian plane. It sounds fancy, but it's really just that simple grid you remember from school, with a horizontal x-axis and a vertical y-axis. This basic structure is the foundation for almost every chart we're going to talk about.
Now, on that stage, you've got these 5 essential parts that all have to work together. The title is your headline, it tells you what you're looking at. The axes, X and Y, they create the frame. The labels and units are crucial, they tell us what we're measuring. Is it dollars, years, puppies? The legend, or key, decodes the colors and symbols. And finally, the data field itself. The bars, the dots, the lines, that's the star of the show. Get these 5 things right, and you're well on your way to an honest, clear graph.
All right, now that we know the basic building blocks, let's get into the juicy part, how it all can go wrong. We're going to cover the 6 most common design traps that you absolutely need to avoid.
And trap number 1 is the exact one we saw at the very beginning: misleading axes. The rule of thumb for bar charts is so simple. Start your value axis at 0, always. Unless you have a super specific reason and you explain it clearly, starting anywhere else just completely distorts the picture, and honestly, breaks the trust you have with your audience.
Trap number 2 is all about color, or rather, poor color choices. You know, the wrong colors don't just look ugly, they can make a chart totally unreadable. Too many colors is just chaos. Clashing colors hurt the eyes. So the fix is to use a limited, consistent, and really purposeful color palette. And, this is key, make sure it's accessible.
So, how accessible are we talking? Well, the professional standard is a minimum 3:1 contrast ratio. That's between any adjacent colors in your graph and also between those colors and the background. Just checking this one thing helps ensure that your chart is actually readable for people with visual impairments, including many forms of color blindness.
Okay, trap number 3, overcomplication. It is so tempting to just cram everything into one visual, right? Add some flashy 3D effects, throw in a few extra variables, but complexity is the enemy of clarity. A truly great chart does one job, and it does it well. Just remember the mantra: one chart, one key takeaway. If you've got more to say, that's fine. Just make another chart.
Next up is a really fundamental one: using the wrong type of chart for the job. You wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, right? So please, don't use a pie chart to show a trend over time. For trends, you need a line chart. A pie chart is for showing parts of a whole. A bar chart is perfect for comparing different categories. And a scatter plot is your best friend for finding correlations. Matching the chart to your story is absolutely non-negotiable.
And our last 2 traps can instantly destroy all your hard work. The 5th trap is ignoring your labels and legends. A graph without clear labels isn't a graph, it's just abstract art. It's meaningless, and just as bad as trap number 6, using bad data.
An elegant chart that's built on outdated or unverified information isn't just wrong, it's a beautifully designed lie, and that just demolishes your credibility.
Okay, so we know what not to do. Phew! Now for the fun part. Let's move beyond just avoiding common mistakes and start thinking like a real designer to create graphs that are truly elegant and effective.
I love this quote because it just nails it. The default settings in your software will get you a graph, sure, but they will almost never get you a great graph. To make something look professional, to make it memorable, you've got to go that extra step and customize it with real intention.
So what does that actually mean? Well, it boils down to a few core design principles. First, think of your chart as telling a story. Use white space, empty space, to reduce clutter and let the data breathe. Mute your grid lines. Make them a light gray so they guide the eye but don't distract from the data. Create a clear visual hierarchy with your text. And be consistent. These are the kinds of secrets used by outlets like the BBC and National Geographic to make visuals that aren't just informative, but are genuinely beautiful.
And that brings us to our final and, I think, our most important section. Because a truly great graph isn't just clear and beautiful, it's also responsible. It has to work for every single person who sees it. And this really requires a shift in how we think. Accessibility isn't just some chore you check off a list at the end. It is a hallmark of effective and ethical communication. I mean, think about it. If some of your audience can't understand your chart, then the chart has failed its #1 job. So how do we actually do this? Here are 4 concrete steps. 1. Use color thoughtfully. Make sure there's good contrast and use patterns or direct labels so that color isn't the only way you're conveying information. 2. Provide alt text. That's a short written description of the chart's takeaway for screen readers. 3. Include the raw data in a simple table nearby. This gives people another way to access the info. And 4. Write a really clear caption that explains the chart's title, what kind of chart it is, and what the key insights are.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? It's really this. A great graph isn't flashy or complicated. It's simple, it's truthful, and it's focused. When we embrace these ideas, we stop just showing data and we start creating genuine understanding. And that's how we build trust and clarity with our audience.
Which leaves us with one final thought. The next time you sit down to make a graph, don't just think about plotting points on a grid. Think of yourself as a storyteller. So, the real question is, what story will your next chart tell?